Welcome to Wimmer's Wilderness. I'm your host, George Wimmer. I have 30 years of volunteer work, community organizing, and 16 years in local government, 12 of those as mayor. Wimmer's Wilderness is an informed look at politics, community, government, environment, and education from a local perspective. Welcome back to Wimmer's Wilderness. It's been a little while since we've had a new podcast, and we've got a few more good ones here in store. But episode 73 is going to focus on the concept of losing, okay? And it's something that really has come to the fore in the last few years here, and we're going to delve into that a little bit. But as always, my Moose is back here, and so he's always with me. Took that picture out by Estes Park on the western slope. And then if you can see just kind of over my shoulder, there's a little bee hanging out there. That was made for me by my daughter, and I'm going to hopefully have it hanging down here at some point. But I just kind of wanted to describe the space that I'm in here in my home office, and we're going to kind of keep working on improving that just a little bit, so the atmospherics for those people who are watching the YouTube companion to that, and you'll see them kind of off to one side, and that's because in the open side over here, sometimes there'll be some graphics or pictures, and if you look at some of the YouTube shows I've done or episodes that I put up there, there's some different things I'll put in that spot. So that's kind of why my big melon of a head is off to one side. Those who are just listening the podcast on all the differing podcast sites, none of this really matters to you. So we'll get on to the actual podcast here. So losing. And why did I decide to kind of make that the first episode as we're starting off here again? It's because we've forgotten how to lose. We've forgotten how important it is to handle losing correctly. Okay. And look, it's real easy to pick on somebody like former President Trump, who is probably the worst loser there is, right? He got soundly beaten in the last election. It was part of their plan to just not accept that loss no matter what, declare victory before the votes were counted. It was all part of this whole process, okay? A lot of his strong supporters still believe that he is the president or that he won or whatever nonsensical thing, okay? He lost. Get over it. He lost. He's running again. We'll see if he does any better. But he lost in 2020, and he won in 2016. The issue is, okay, so if somebody believes that they didn't lose, legitimately, that's one thing, right? But if you lost and you're looking for a scapegoat or you're looking for some excuse, that's just not the way it goes. And I hate to sound like the old guy sitting on the front porch, but, back in the day, you were taught, how to lose. And you still should be taught how to lose, because losing is so critically important to future success. Okay. Every time I would be at some sporting event for one of my kids, and you hear some of the comments and some of the just outrageous things that occur at sporting events where, somebody, their kid is losing or their team isn't doing well or whatever. And just trying to find every which way to blame it on somebody or something else, that's not good. Okay. It's not good for you as a person. It's not good for your team. It's not good for your community. It's not good for your child. Certainly. All right. Learning how to handle losing and loss is important. Okay. Some of the things I've learned in my life, especially, back in school when I would, make a mistake on some test question or whatever, I would never forget that again, because I just hated losing so much. But it was important. It's how I kind of grew in my knowledge. It's how I grew in being a person and how to handle those situations. So, we kind of go from, this concept or idea that, okay, um, we can't lose, right? And, you always hear people say, oh, the age, we're in the age, or maybe we're past it now, who knows? But where, everyone gets a participation trophy or gets this or gets that, and people would, be upset about that, and such, huge stink was made about it. But this is far worse, where people can't handle losing, right? And this scapegoating and getting angry about things to, pretty extreme situations at times, that's much worse. And we have to understand that we learn a lot in losing. Okay. You know, I won 5 straight elections in my community, one with, 60, 70% um, wins, which was phenomenal. But my last election, I lost. And that hurt. Okay. It felt like I got punched in the gut. It was a pretty bad feeling. Okay. And I can still remember getting the phone call from one of the people that I knew who was there watching the results. And as I kind of, had a feeling throughout the day of looking at some of the things coming in, I felt pretty confident that, I could definitely lose, right? And but when it finally came in and the preliminary numbers came in and showed, and I think we still had mail-in ballots or something like that, but those generally don't change, the outcome of an election. So, I went from, pretty large wins to losing by a couple hundred votes, but I lost. And that's one of the things, when you run in an election, the voters will tell you exactly what they think of you, good, bad, or indifferent. And, the first thing I did, I, posted that, hey, I lost. I congratulated my opponent who had become who was the mayor-elect at that point, um, and really had to, you know, get over, just how much that hurt. When I told my wife, told my kids, hey, I cried, man. I was heartbroken. I loved being mayor of my community. Okay, I loved it. And I think objectively we did a pretty darn good job. I was the youngest person ever elected mayor. I had won the most consecutive terms. I think the most terms total. Um, and then I also served the longest period of time. And it it was something that when I began the campaign, I thought I would win. Okay, which anybody who runs for office, if they tell you they don't have somewhat of an ego, is lying to you, right? But I was definitely hit hard, and I was humbled. But it was important to me to congratulate my opponent. It was important to me. I met with him several times to try to help ensure a good transition, which again, it's hard, right? This is somebody who's coming at you both barrels, and you had to swallow some pride and become, pretty humble in doing that. But in that loss, there was something that I remembered when I was elected, and I ran against a sitting mayor at the time, and in our community, the mayor and council were also the board of elections, and so we had to certify the election. And the previous mayor never showed up to run that meeting and to vote to certify that election, and that was something that I thought I was wrong. I mean, I totally understand what he was feeling. I felt the same way, but I think it's really important to show that you can lose. You still have a job to do. I still had 2 months as mayor to to get some things done and worked out, or a month and a half, or whatever it is. And that was one of my responsibilities. And it was an important responsibility and an important privilege to um, to be the person who certifies the election. Because I certified a number of elections where I won, no problem with that, right? But certifying the election of your opponent is incredibly important, and we see in so many different countries, and unfortunately in our own now, where that doesn't occur as it should. Okay, and that to me is something that we need to really take a look at. Okay, no matter how bad it hurts, you have to look at how you handle losing, because you should just innately want to do it right, but you're setting an example for other people, and it's the institutions that really matter. Okay, and so when people can't handle losing and don't understand what that can mean for you, I think that we need to put a little more thought into it, right? And hey, after I lost, then I picked myself up a few days later, got kind of a new plan in place. I started looking at podcasting, doing some writing. I got into bees. Now I have really nice little bee business and with great honey. Um, like grade A raw honey that I produce. Well, my bees produce. Um, and my candles and beeswax lip balm and all those different things, and that's opened up a lot of doors for me, and I've met people I never would have met before doing that. It's just been a phenomenal experience, right? But I wouldn't have done that. Okay, I wouldn't have looked for that opportunity. I wouldn't have moved in that direction if I hadn't gotten my butt kicked in the first place. Okay, and I really think we need to focus on those things. We really need to take a look at, okay, yeah, this chapter might have ended, or this didn't turn out the way we wanted it to turn out. Let's pick ourselves up and move on. Okay. So much of not being able to handle losing something is all about trying to relive or remake or stay stuck in the past, no matter what it is. Okay. It could be a football game. It could be, it could be a game of chess. It could be a board game with somebody who, cleaned your clock and you just are like bothers you for whatever reason. Um, we just got to get over that. Okay. We got to understand that being a good loser, which, gosh, the word loser now almost seems like it's some kind of profanity, the way that our culture has looked at, oh, you got to win at all cost. And, that other side has got to be evil and we're so good. And, so obviously we have to win. And if we don't win, it's because of that, right? And I think that's part of this whole system that's been established. And we'll pick on Trump a little bit more here, and that Trump's not the creator of any of this, right? Trump is the guy who happens to just kind of be the end culmination of decades long process of, people villainizing the other side and making a them and a they and not an us. And so therefore, if them or they, win and the us loses, well, that can't be right. Okay. And then if you're not even somebody who really, um, you know, goes against, and, I hate using the, election denial and all that kind of stuff as the example, but that's really kind of the hot topic for quite a while. But people who, are in that mindset of what they believe is got to be the right thing, and the person who doesn't believe in what they are doing or saying, well, then that's got to be they've got to be the wrong. So even if they're not virulent about whatever, they'll kind of go along with it, right? Because they've had in their mindset that we are the good and they're the bad. So even if, yeah, okay, you know what, I can see how we didn't win. I can see how this didn't go our way. But gosh, if it didn't go our way, we can't let the bad guys win. So they kind of go along with this nonsense. And those are the people I'm kind of trying to reach. Because the ones who are so far out there, either which way, you really can't reel them back in. Okay, at least I can't reel them back in. I don't have that skill set. Okay, I'm not a magician. I'm not, a great psychologist or psychiatrist. I want to try to get to those people who you can sit down with and have a good conversation with, and you can disagree, right? And sometimes the disagreements, it's literally like somebody could think the world is flat, which unfortunately some people do. And, you like that person, and you're talking to them and whatever, and then they start talking about this just bonkers kind of stuff in your mind. But trying to be respectful, disagreeing, and then moving on is a really good way to kind of start trying to reach some people, okay? And not beating them up and saying, hey, what kind of a loser are you, right? You're such an idiot, you think this, that, or the other thing. We we need to be good losers. We need to be good winners. We need to try, okay, to get people to accept what the reality of the situation is. And for a lot of people in our country, they just will not deal with that reality appropriately. Okay. So when we're looking at, you know, this concept of losing and what it can mean, it's not just about, one person losing an election and all that kind of stuff. It has to do with a lot of stuff. Okay. Has to do with, okay, you're up for promotion, you're up to get that job in the first place, right? So you go to get that job, you don't get it. Okay. There could be lots of reasons why you didn't get it. Could be maybe you're not as qualified as you thought. Maybe you just didn't fit into the organization. Maybe that organization didn't want you because, I don't know, your name is George and you wear glasses, right? You just don't know. But a lot of times people have a real hard experience after a loss like that, okay? And get into that mindset of, trying is bad. Well, you got to keep trying, right? You got to keep pushing forward. Sometimes we let the idea that we're going to lose stop us and prevent us from even trying. And that in and of itself is just, that's a travesty, right? That's a whole different kind of level of losing. But it leads to that same feeling of, some resentment, some anger, some, there's somebody, there's a them who's holding us down kind of thing. And we really need to try to get out of that mindset, okay? And I'm going to read a quote here from um, one of my favorite uh, individuals of all time, Sir Winston Churchill. And it's about perseverance and those who, um, you know, aren't really familiar with the term perseverance and what it means. It's one of those words that has, this very specific definition, and it means that. But in our lives, perseverance and resiliency are two words that is a huge dividing line between success and defeat. Okay? So I'm going to read this to you. I'm going to move my mic down a little bit. I've got it on my board right in front of me here. But as Sir Winston Churchill defines it, it's success is not final. Okay? Or this is a quote about it. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Okay? And that first part is incredibly important. Success is not final. You can win today, but you can lose tomorrow. You can lose today and you can win tomorrow. Every day can be a win or a loss, right? That's so important because sometimes we think, oh gosh, this person won and then they won. And okay, gosh, they're going to win everything. That doesn't work that way. Ask any sports fan. But it goes for loss as well. Okay? You lose, and then you lose, and you're going to keep losing till you win. All right? Just like you can keep winning till you lose. But we made losing such a negative thing that people kind of get locked into this mindset, right? And that's something that we have to combat as well. All right. We've got to get people, like we talked about to begin with, who can't accept loss, right? and want to fight against it and refight that exact same thing and come up with every reason, excuse for why they can't lose, or their candidate can't lose, or their kid can't lose, or their team can't lose. There's got to be somebody to blame for that. On the flip side, or maybe a whole other side of a different coin, you have a situation where people get in their mindset that they can't win, that they themselves are a loser. Okay. And that is a terrible feeling. And both of those situations can lead to resentment, can lead to anger, can lead to a lot of bad decision making, right? And so I've gone from, Sir Winston Churchill, and I'm going to direct people to a comedy duo, Garfunkel and Oates, right? It's two women, and their names aren't actually Garfunkel and Oates, but they kind of wanted to, parody being the second tier person in each of those partnerships, and whether or not you think those Garfunkel and Oates are the second tier of Simon and Garfunkel and Hall and Oates. That's entirely up to you, but that's kind of what they're going for. And they do a lot of parody stuff, and it's just they're really funny. They've broken up I think a little while ago, but they're just hilarious. You should check them out, Garfunkel and Oates. But they have a song, and they do a lot of different songs and skit things like that, and it's called "Such a Loser." All right, and out of their like I said, they primarily do parody things, fun things, funny things. But this is really one of their pieces that I think is really incredibly meaningful. Okay, and there's a song called "The Loser," right? And I'm going to read a little piece of it for you if I can pull it up here properly. And I can't play it. I don't want to get into any kind of copyright issue and have this podcast struck down. But I can certainly read you some of the lyrics, and I'm going to, because I think it encapsulates it pretty well. All right. But go listen to this, and I'll try to remember to link it everywhere. And so you get into this, into the song, and we're kind of in the second, third paragraph of it. You're a loser, but a dreamer. You're tired, but you're strong. You're going on no evidence. You don't listen to common sense. You went all in, and you were wrong. You're such a loser. Good for you. It's something a lot of people can't do. Trying is hard. That's why people don't do it. Losing is hard. They can't make it through it. But not you. You're such a loser. You're such a loser. Here's to you, because you deserve a cheering section. And the thing about it is, so many people don't try because they get into that mindset, right? And if you get into that mindset where you're not going to try because you're so scared of losing, that really is defeating for you, for your family, for your friends, for your community, for everything. All right. I have screwed up so many times, and I've been successful, I've not been successful, um, in some things, and I try stuff that I really don't have the first clue about. Um, Now, not everybody can do that. Not everybody has the support system to be able to do that, right? I have just the best family in the world and the best friends in the world, and it's been very helpful for me. Okay, and for whatever reason, I have more confidence that somebody, this old, fat, and ugly should have, but it does help. And there's so many talented people, so many great people who just don't try, right? Which again is that other kind of losing that I think we need to look at. Because I admire those people who have not been knocked down, right? And you know what? You could have screwed up, totally your fault, right? 10 years ago in whatever job you're doing, and you're still paying the price for it. Okay. But you're still getting up every day. You're still going forward. You're still trying. You're still working hard. And you're still moving yourself, your family, your career, everything forward. Okay. That's hard. Okay, it's hard to get punched in the face, get up, and get going again. Okay, I admire the heck out of those people because they are doing something that is incredibly, incredibly difficult. And sometimes I don't know where people get the strength and perseverance to do that. But that's the person who, you know, they know that that's always going to be there, but they're moving on from it. Okay. And I think we need to try to do that more. So why, why did I decide that I wanted to talk about this, right? Um, and what does it have to do? Because I try to be more local community kind of focused, and I see it a lot in our local communities. The ridiculous sports parents are always there. The political people who, I mean, just have completely lost their mind, right? Who, post things out there that they themselves know are completely not true, but it fits the political narrative of their particular political party, and it's just plays into their base and just all kinds of idiotic nonsense. That's why I ended up being a terrible politician, and I am not tied to any particular party. But I think that we need to start taking a look, right, at getting a better mindset within our local communities. Because if the person across the street from you or the person you're going to see as you go to, whatever local store it is, the person that, is in or not in any kind of the local charity groups, when it gets to the point that you can't even share a few sentences because you're worried about, what's their political party, what's their this, what's their that, and are they a them, are they an us kind of thing? That's when we run into serious dysfunction. I mean, nationally, we've always had a lot of really strong divides on a lot of different things. But the last decade or so, local communities are getting torn that way more than I think in quite some time. And when somebody goes up and has a battle of ideas, right? And look, there are people who are just simply off their rocker or have some horrible, terrible positions on things. But I'm talking about the majority of people who we want to get involved, right? But they might be afraid of losing. They might be afraid of winning and having the losing side tear them to shreds. I mean, the amount of local election officials who are no longer local election officials, who have been doing it for decades and have just been spectacular, but face death threats because the other side in the last presidential election, and not the other side of the election official, just you know the chaos that Trump and created with this idea that, okay, well, he couldn't have lost, therefore there's all kinds of corruption and all kinds of whatever, which didn't prove to be true at all. But it destroyed people, it destroyed their lives. I mean, it's just wrong. So people don't try. People are scared to try. People are scared to be, refs in a football game, for God's sakes, because, the torment that they're going to face. Okay? We have got to stop. We have got to have faith and trust in our local institutions. We have got to get away from this whole process that's been out there to replace people who are actually good at what they're doing, who are effective, efficient, and talented in it, and replacing them with an us person who will just do whatever needs to get done. Okay? And that all goes back to this losing and afraid of losing. Because it used to be one side would lose an election, and then they would revamp what their message was because their principles, they believed in, right? But it wasn't communicated well. Or it was, hit in such a way that, okay, well, let's try to work on this and make it better. That's not the case anymore. That hasn't been the case for a while, actually. Now it's all about let's make the other side terrible. We're good. And that's all there is to it. And that's what leads to people being afraid to lose, right? Because we used to lose in politics, right? You know, Goldwater lost in 64, but he sparked a conservative revolution. I mean, I used to be a Republican when I was in college. His conscience of a conservative sparked a tremendous, I think, revolution in Republican politics and electoral politics in this country. Hasn't led down the path I think he would have liked it to have gone down for the Republican Party. But that's what would happen, okay? You get beat, you try to rethink, recreate, figure things out, make them better, and come back and convince enough people to vote for you to win. But now you don't admit to losing. You don't try to make anything better from the loss. Try to learn from the loss. You just say, hey, I didn't lose. The other side's evil and bad. Right? I didn't get that job. I got screwed. My kid didn't win his game. The blankety blank refs or the hometown crowd, or they just don't happen to like the way I spell my name. All those things are at fault. There's no improvement that way. And that's kind of the last, just, I guess, idea I kind of want to leave in this episode. Is losing is a great motivator to improve, to get better. If we don't think we can ever lose, why would anybody ever try to be better? Why would anybody try to improve? Why would anybody try to work on themselves or work on whatever the heck they lost in, right? We don't need to improve anything. We don't need to get better. We're perfect, apparently, right? We can't lose. That's not just terrible for any political party or for any individual person. That's terrible, terrible for our society, for our local communities. Local governments, we're kind of, we like to think of ourselves as being, innovators and kind of being a petri dish of trying to figure out solutions to differing problems, because each community is just a little bit different, right? And they can come up with lots of different kind of creative ideas, and then that bubbles up to regional and state, and then hopefully to the federal government to try to make, some improvements along the way. Screw that, right? I mean, hey, we're good, we're perfect. We never need to make a change. Our whole society ossifies. Our whole society starts to deteriorate into some dogmatic, I don't know, dystopian future, right? That's today. Losing is a good thing. We don't want to lose. Trust me, I hate losing, but it's a great motivator, or it can be, right? It can help us improve ourselves. It can help us improve so many different things. But if we lose the concept of losing, if we lose the motivation of losing, if we lose the benefit of losing, I think we lose ourselves. I think we lose what it is that helps drive us to be better. I mean, my gosh. I mean, this is how my mind works. I can think all the way back to 8th grade. We had our junior high. We had this year-end kind of track competition and all that kind of stuff. And damn, I loved running the 200 and the 400. But kid Troy, he was better than me. Took first place in each, and he wasn't going to do, I think it was the 400 he wasn't going to do. He was going to do a different one. I was like, oh, great, I can win this one, right? Which is terrible, right? Because, you don't want to win because, the better person decided to do something different. But I was like, oh, I could have won that. But he smoked me in both of them because he was just better. All right. But I worked damn hard to try to keep improving. And that's what you need. Okay. We've got to get over equating losing to some horrible, terrible condition we don't ever want to be in, right? We can't lose that motivation. We can't lose that process of making ourselves better, of making our communities better, of making our society better. Please stop shaming and not accepting loss when it happens. Okay? We all lose. We all lose at things all the time. Accept it. Use it. Persevere. Become resilient. Become better. Become stronger. Become smarter. Become more driven to succeed. Loss is not evil. The other side in a competition wasn't sent here from hell to torment us. We need to improve. We need functional political parties that can debate earnestly. God, I can't even remember how long ago it was till one of the biggest differences was how high the capital gains tax should be. We can't even pass budgets. We can't even move legislation. We can't do anything on our federal level. And now it's creeped into a lot of states, and it's creeping into local communities. Okay. We need to do better. All of us. So that got a little preachier at the end than I intended it to, I guess, when I first started out. But I think it's important. Okay. We can't be stagnant humans. We got to get better. Loss is a great motivator. Okay. So thanks for listening. We'll have another one out. I'm going to be doing some another, I guess, again, more podcasts like this, but also doing covering a lot of or just discussing a lot of other issues as well. May end up being a weekly or bi-weekly type episode where I spend 10, 15 minutes or more, depending on how much I pontificate on it, on different issues that come up during that week. So stay tuned. This podcast is dropping. I'm recording it. What time is it? It's midnight on Wednesday. So we have now gone into, I guess Thursday. We're 12:04. Thursday, April 4th. So this will be dropping later today. Thanks for listening, and hopefully you'll catch me on all my social media, and then over on wimmerswilderness.org. And if you're local to where I'm at in Minnesota and Wisconsin, eastern Minnesota, western Wisconsin, take a look at some of our great bee products there as well. And hopefully I'll be doing some more writing here soon too, so we can update our blog on wimmerswilderness.org. So again, thanks for listening. Thank you for joining us today. Help us spread the word by telling your friends, family, and heck, even your frenemies that they can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Luminary, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio. Pretty much anywhere you can find a podcast, you're going to find Wimmer's Wilderness. To learn more about us, go to wimmerswilderness.org. Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wimmer's Wilderness.